everyone. So good to have you here on the last of the StudioX Summer Sessions for the Summer School. So I'm just going to share my screen and we'll get the PowerPoint up. As Christina said, we've got a lovely mix today of some content for you, as well as some exercises, some fun questions as a quiz and a QA as well. So let's get started. So hopefully you can all see my screen down there. If you don't, or if you have any questions, any challenges as we go through any of the content, please do use the little chat function down there. Lovely and I will be switching who's talking and who's manning that messaging there for you. So there should always be someone there ready to respond to you. So we've had the introductions to the session, so I'm going to jump straight into what we're going to be covering today. So as you will have heard, this is the email automation session. We're going to be looking at Outlook primarily, as well as a little bit of Gmail as well. And we're going to be covering the topics of essentially what is email automation, why you even need to consider it when you're thinking about what you're doing in UiPath, the types of email actions that you can automate using StudioX, and how you go about using StudioX for email automation. A little bit of theory there in terms of just running you through some of the initial concepts before we jump into our first practice, which is going to be looking at taking emails from folders, replying to certain emails, downloading attachments and redistributing as well. So it's quite a nice little practice there, getting you to do a couple of different things. We're then going to have a little bit of a quiz, just a one question quiz to start us off with before launching into another little practice where we're going to be doing another demo in using Outlook again for StudioX. And then I'm going to pass over to Lovely, who will be showing you a Gmail automation as well. And that's actually something that potentially you can take away as a little bit of homework. And once we've done that, we'll be finishing off the quiz and doing a Q&A session for any challenges that you might have had along the way, as well as looking at what the next steps are going to be as you continue on your learning journey with UiPath and specifically with StudioX. So moving on then, just a very quick note. So there is, for the second demonstration, there is a little pack that you can download. We will be sending across this PowerPoint presentation, so you'll be able to access all the links and things like that from it. I believe, Christina, is this pack in the folder that they've got access to already?
I will send the zip link in the chat now, so everyone has the link in the chat as well. And also I will upload it in the event link, so they will have it in the presentation and the event content as well.
Fantastic, thank you very much. So with the second demo, what this is actually doing is it gives you a little bit of a framework, a little bit of a head start on pulling together some of the activities in StudioX. It's not necessarily needed, but it does give you a good head start on the little activity that we're going to be doing. So look out for that link. Christina, I think she'll put it in the chat. So when that comes across, it might be worth you going ahead and downloading that just so that we've got it prepped and ready for when we come to do the exercises. The other good thing to do at this stage, just to make sure that you're all ready for when we come to it, is maybe just opening up StudioX and starting a blank new project, call it something like training or something like that. As I'm sure you're all aware, starting up Studio can take a little while just loading. So if you want to do that now, then that's great. It just means that's out of the way. Moving on then. So what is email automation? So email automation refers to the task automation, essentially, that surrounds sending emails, receiving emails, and doing many of the sort of common activities basically that you might do with your emails. It's fair to say that emails are one of the most prolific things that happen on the internet. Hundreds, thousands, millions of emails are sent every day, if not every minute. So it is very, very likely that you're going to be in situations where you're looking to automate tasks or processes that you've been doing, and there will be elements of email automation in there. So you'll see as we progress through this session today, the types of things that you're going to be able to automate, lots of low-level sort of tasks that might help as a sort of assistant to your working day, as well as things that can be added to maybe more complex processes where maybe getting an email or sending an email is just one part of a larger process structure that you're going to be trying to automate. Bottom line is, though, emails are intrinsically part of just about everyone's day who works on a computer. So having the ability to do that kind of automation within StudioX means that you're able to tackle many more different types of processes and tasks and get done more of what you need to when it comes to automating. So we're going to have a look at the types of things that you can automate using StudioX. So we'll have a look at some common things that are often automated, and then also some less common things as well. So you can see here that you can send email messages just as you would normally do with something like Outlook or Gmail anyway. You can edit things like the recipients, CCs, subjects, the body of text, attachments, everything that you would usually do when you're sending an email, you should have the control over when you're using StudioX as well. And you can automate all of the sort of standard tasks that you might be performing on those emails, like replying, forwarding, deleting, marking emails as read or unread, depending on the circumstances. And all of these are going to be contained in a really nice little subset of activities that you can simply drag and drop when you're actually using Studio and StudioX. You can also save email attachments along with saving the emails themselves. This is really a very useful and powerful little activity that you can be using in StudioX. It's very, very common. We see it all the time. Processes starting from a point where you've received an email, maybe with a PDF attachment, maybe it's an invoice or a PO or something like that. And the downloading of that attachment and saving it somewhere before proceeding on with the proper process is the necessary first step. So having the ability to take those emails, iterate through them, saving your attachments is something that's definitely going to come in handy and something that we'll see during the demonstrations as well today. You can also, when you're sending emails from StudioX, you can also sort of change the way basically that you are sending the information. So you can have the body of the email, so the main message, if you like, that's being sent. You can have that as sort of free text, if you like. So as you're developing, you can come up with a piece of text that you might want to be sending with the email. Or you can use HTML if you're familiar with HTML practices in coding, or you can even use a Word document, and that Word document will form essentially a template that then you are able to send via email. It's not sending the Word document, it's just using the content of that Word document in order to create the body of the email there. And again, we'll have a look at that in a little bit more detail in one of the demos. It's a really cool little feature, allows you to make really enriched emails with things like pictures and other fun stuff as well that maybe would be harder to achieve if you're just writing it out in text. So looking at a couple of potentially not so common email actions for you to automate, although I would say that these are still very, very useful. One of which is the for each email activity. And this is a very useful, in particular circumstances, activity that allows you to iterate through emails that you might have received. So it might be that you're iterating through your inbox, for instance, finding and dealing with specific emails, or maybe there's a subfolder that all of the invoices, for instance, have been sent into, and you might target that particular folder in order to iterate through and get all of those invoices. And again, as we talked about in the previous slide, that sort of scenario where you can then iterate through and do things like download attachments or otherwise deal with those specific emails that you targeted. When you are when you're looking at automating in StudioX, it is actually really, really simple. As with many of the other things in StudioX, it's been designed specifically for usability. And so what it means is that you have a really nice little set of activities that you can use. We have 3 resources and 11 actions. And just to remind yourselves of what we mean when we say resources and actions, resources are essentially containers that allow you to connect to specific systems or data sources. So we would have a resource, for instance, to connect with Gmail or to connect with Outlook. And then you have actions, which are the specific little actions that you want to perform on that target system or data set. So the actions that you might expect for something like this is things like sending an email, deleting an email, moving an email, etc. And if we move on to the next slide, we can see that this is the a list of the different things that you will get when you begin to look at this in StudioX. We've divided it up, as you can see, into the 3 resources at the top and then the actions at the bottom. And it's worth noting that you can see we've got these 3 resources, 2 of which allude to Outlook. So you've got the using the Outlook desktop app and also using Outlook 365. And you also have the use of Gmail as well. So those are the 3 sort of out of the box connectors, if you like, that you are given from within StudioX. I'm going to be mainly using the Use Desktop Outlook app because it's nice and simple. If you have Outlook already installed on your computer, what this essentially does is it means that Studio will connect to Outlook and use all the functionality from within Outlook as to the connection to your email exchange and various other bits as well. Makes it really, really nice and easy to automate, as we'll see as we come into a couple of the demos. And then the Gmail and the Outlook 365, they're slightly different in that they're not using an app that you've actually got installed on your computer. Rather, they are connecting to the usually cloud-based servers that actually control your email, either for Gmail or Outlook 365. But the crucial thing is that all of these are, as I say, providing that initial connection, and the activities that you can do or the actions that you can do that you can see below it are universal across these different resource types. So it doesn't matter if you're using a desktop Outlook app or using Gmail, you'll still be able to use all of the actions that we can see down the bottom here, like forwarding the email, deleting the email, etc. Now, before we go on and see a demo practice, so that's something that we're going to work through together, I just want to show you a quick video. It's always nice just to get a little bit of a different perspective on it. And this video is going to show you how to use some of these different actions and resources in terms of bringing it together into a proper automation. This video is available on the Academy in the StudioX Citizen Developer course. I would absolutely advise any of you who want to continue on learning more about not just email automation, but StudioX and UiPath in general, to utilize the UiPath Academy for different resources like videos, sessions, etc., that you might want to tap into. So as I say, I'm just going to very quickly pause sharing my screen and switch it over to that video, and we can have a look through that and just see some examples of this being used. So I'll just grab the video over onto my screen. So here we are. Now, hopefully the sound should be coming through to you. If this kicks off and you don't get any sound, please do just let us know in the chat, and I'm sure Lovely will let me know. And it's about 6 minutes long, so we'll take a look at it. Do pay attention to how these different activities are going to be used, because as soon as we've stopped the video, we're going to start going through a little demonstration, which is also going to start using these as well.
Hello and welcome to the StudioX Working with
sound.
Outlook automation demo. In this video, we'll learn how we can use StudioX to automate otherwise manual and repetitive tasks performed using Outlook. All of the actions and resources that help us interact with Outlook are found.
Oh, sorry, that's completely my fault. I've managed to get rid of that. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, so my apologies there. I managed to move my mouse over and cancel that screen down. So I've just got it back up here.
Hello and welcome to the StudioX Working with Outlook automation demo. In this video, we'll learn how we can use StudioX to automate otherwise manual and repetitive tasks performed using Outlook. All of the actions and resources that help us interact with Outlook are found in the Activities panel under the Mail tab. Let's take a glance. We have the Use Desktop Outlook app and Use Outlook 365 resource. These activities are used to select the Outlook account to automate. The actions are displayed in alphabetical order and depict the most common actions that we take in Outlook, like saving attachments, moving emails in folders, or sending calendar invites. So, let's imagine that your role involves receiving tens or even hundreds of emails each day that have, for this example, receipts attached to them. What you'd normally do is open each individual email and then save each attachment manually, and we can all imagine how much time that would take. But if you were to automate this operation, it would take far less time, it will be more accurate, and it will be reusable. Create the project once and then use it as many times as you wish on new emails. So, let's jump right into it. Our project is created. The next step is to tell StudioX that we want to work with Outlook to do this. We'll click on the Add Activity button and look for the Use Desktop Outlook app resource. We have the option to use the default email account or other accounts that are assigned in Outlook. We'll use the default email account for this demo and leave it referenced as Outlook since we'll work with just this one account. Our task is to go through all of the emails in the folder and download the attachment. We'll proceed by dragging and dropping the For Each Email action. This activity allows us to look at and perform a specific action for each email that's found in any given folder within our email account. Due to the deep StudioX integration with the Outlook application, all of the folders within our email account will be listed here. Now, to also specify a folder from the list that we want to work with, we need to select it from the selection tree. For this demo, we already created this folder. We also have the option to go only through the unread emails or limit the automation to several emails. Additional filters imply that we can select the emails by sender date and other recipients involved, and we'll do just that. Looking at our Outlook folder, we can see that it contains emails received from UiPath Consultant and RPA Developer. We will save the attachments just from the emails sent by UiPath Consultant by selecting additional filters and creating the filter to pick only those emails. The next step would be to choose the action that we want to perform on the emails found in the folder that we just specified. For that, we need to add a Save Email Attachments action. All we need to do now is configure it. We'll keep the email message field to the current mail option. This indicates that the email message whose attachments we'll save is the one being iterated through. In the second field, we can set a filter that will only target specific emails from our email folder. This would become useful if we run this automation against a folder that receives multiple non-related emails that could contain non-related attachments. You have the option of filtering the emails under Subject, Body, From, and more. And lastly, we want to tell StudioX what to do with all of the attachments found. The last field, called Save to Folder, will enable us to do just that, browse for our local folder. For this exercise, we created a local folder called Project X, which receives all of the files. Now that everything is in place, let's hit Run and see what happens. The task automation was successful. We can see here that our local folder has been populated with all of the attachments sent by the UiPath consultant. So, let's say that we don't want to download an attachment if the email has in its subject the word test. Let's delete these files and revisit the automation. Basically, we need to create a decision that the robot must make. If the condition is met, then the email is deleted and the attachment is not saved. If it's not met, then the email attachment is saved. We implement this decision by adding the if activity to the workflow. We then must build a condition that the robot must meet for the emails to be deleted. We use the condition builder, and we specify that the condition has been met whenever the email subject contains the word test. To delete an email that contains the word test, we add the delete email activity to the then condition. Furthermore, we want to make sure that the attachments are saved if the else condition is true. So, we drag the save email attachments activity into the else condition. We then run the test. And we can see that fewer files have been downloaded. We now have 2 documents as opposed to the 4 documents downloaded the first time the workflow ran. And we can also see that the emails containing the word test have been moved to the deleted items folder. And this concludes our demo on working with Outlook. Until next time.
Excellent. So hopefully that was useful to be able to just kind of begin to show you how we're going to use some of these resources, how we're going to use some of the activities, and how actually easy it is to begin to piece this all together. And we saw there in the video your ability basically to kind of tie into Outlook, for instance, so that you can understand the folder structure that you might have on your Outlook account and various other things like that. So it's made very, very easy for us to go ahead and start to automate. So we're going to build on that now with a demo. So this is something that it would be great for you to build alongside with me. So we're going to be looking at this demo practice 1, which is our Outlook automation preview. So what we're going to be doing is imagining that we are an accounts receivable department within a business, and that we receive hundreds of emails every day, and that such emails include invoices to be processed and also overdue accounts that need to be addressed. So there's going to be 2 types of emails that are being received here, either notifications that you are overdue or that it is simply an invoice. And we're going to look to automate the first stages of what you might need to do with this kind of information within a business. And namely, that's going to be to iterate through all of those emails, to save any attachments into a new folder. So that essentially means that we're going to be saving down all of the invoices, for instance, that we've received in those emails. We're then going to specifically look at the ones which say overdue in the subject, and we're going to move them to another mail folder called priority, just to make sure that they are dealt with in a timely manner. And we're also going to be replying to those priority emails with a short email with an apology, essentially, about the unpaid account, maybe suggesting that it's going to be paid very shortly. So we're going to go through this all together. So I'm just going to get StudioX open. This is why I said previously, if you want to go ahead and open up StudioX on a new process, that would be great. So I am in a new process here. So hopefully you have all got StudioX open. You've started off on the home screen and you've just created a new blank project. All of the dependencies obviously will need to load, etc. But once it has, you should be seeing something like this on my screen here. Now, there is a little bit of a prerequisite when it comes to doing this exercise, i.e. that you are picking up emails, and therefore you are going to need some emails ready to pick up. So if I just open up my email on screen here, you'll see that I've created a folder called business invoices, and in that folder I've sent myself a load of emails. You can see there's 23, 24 in there, all with some invoices on them. So there's some PDFs there to download, and also with subjects and body of the email suggesting what's happening. So either it's going to be a new invoice received or it's an overdue invoice, which were the two different scenarios that we had highlighted. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that you need to go ahead and send yourself 24 odd emails, but what it would be good to do is just send yourself maybe a couple of emails with some attachments. It doesn't really matter what the attachment is, as long as there's something there that you can have the robot download. But if you send yourself a couple of emails with some invoices on, and some of those emails need to have the word overdue in the subject line as well, because those are the ones that we're going to start marking as a priority. Like I say, you only need a couple there just to make sure that the mechanisms that we're building are correct. You can see I've got sort of 23 odd in there. So when we go through and I run it, you should see what's going to happen with those different ones. But if you want to go ahead and send yourself a couple of emails like that, that would be absolutely perfect. And that sets you up then for what we need to be doing in StudioX. Just close down the presentation. There we go. Right, so the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to make a connection through to Outlook for me. If you are using Gmail and you don't have Outlook, do feel free to use the Gmail collection as well, but I will be using Outlook here. So first of all, I'm going to go over to the Activities tab on the left-hand side of the screen, and I'm going to go straight to the Resources section, which is usually uncollapsed like this, and I'm going to go to Use Desktop Outlook app. And this is the one that's going to connect directly to the Outlook application that I have locally on my machine, and means that the integration is going to be as simple really as it possibly can be. You can see here that it's going to decide which account that this is going to use, and also how this account is going to be referenced throughout this automation. And you can see that it will automatically go for the default email account. That just means whatever primary email account is associated with your Outlook will be used. But you can see you can also drop it down and get all of the different emails that you might be using with your Outlook. You can see I've got quite a few here, but I'm happy just to continue to use the default email account, which is the primary email account on my Outlook. Now, as I said before, with these resources, really what this is doing is it's establishing the connection through to Outlook, which is then going to provide all the functionality and mechanisms that you need to perform the actions that we're going to do here. So this by itself is not doing anything other than really just establishing that connection to the desktop Outlook app. So we're going to now need to add in some actions that we're going to be performing. And the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to start getting the emails and iterating through the emails from the folder that we need. And if we go back into Outlook, you'll see that there is a folder here. It's under training exercises and then business-invoices. This is the folder that I need to look at when we're going through this automation. And the way that we're going to achieve that is by using a for each email. So that for each email, as we saw in the video just a second ago, that's going to target a specific folder, iterating through the emails, performing actions on those specific emails. So I'm going to go back to my activities tab over on the left-hand side. And you can see here, because we're already using this resource, StudioX is helping us out a little bit by offering up all of the different types of activities that you can do with this kind of resource. So you can see here we've got various different things here, and what we want is the for each email, which is about third down on the list here. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to drag it across and pop it inside of this resources container. You need to make sure that it is inside of that because, as I said before, this is establishing the connection and all of the actions need to be performed within it. From here, we just need to configure up exactly what emails this is going to be looking at. So you can see here, it's going to be labeled as the current mail. So as it iterates through all of the different emails, you can reference one specific email, whatever email it is on at that point, using this current mail. So we don't need to change that. That's absolutely fine. But this bit we will need to change. So in emails from, and we need to select a value. So this is asking us essentially which emails you want to start iterating through. And this is where the integration between Outlook and StudioX is really, really valuable because we can start to simply click on the little plus symbol here. We can see Outlook is already one of the options that we're being given. And as I scroll across, you can see it's giving me all of the folders from within that Outlook account. And as we saw just a second ago, the one that we want is going to be in training/exercises and then business invoices. So no problems here in terms of understanding which folder we need. You're not having to type anything out and run the risk of mistyping or anything like that. It's all laid out in front of you and you can go ahead and simply make that connection. So we can see now that it's going to be looking in the right folder. We also want to include unread mails because actually it's said in the task summary that we want to be going through unread mails. It won't matter too much, to be honest. It will depend on the circumstance of the specific case that you're automating as to whether you would want that ticked or not. So now this is going to be connecting to Outlook and it's going to iterate through those emails in the business invoices folder. And so we need to go ahead and do the tasks that the summary has asked us. So the couple of actions that we're going to need to be doing is, first of all, downloading the attachments from these emails and putting them into a local folder. And the second thing is identifying those overdue emails, moving them into a separate email folder, and also replying to those emails with a little apology essentially for the overdue account. So first of all, we're going to do the saving of the attachments. So I'm going to go back over to my activities panel here. And again, you can see it's already got all of the mail activities here, nice and easy. And we can see about 2/3 of the way down this list, we have save email attachments. So if I take that and I drag that across, and again, we're going to be putting it inside of our for each email here. So you can see there's a sort of layering now that's beginning to happen within the automation. So everything that we're doing so far is happening within the Outlook account. So this box is covering everything that we're doing. And then we have within that the for each email, and within that the save email attachment. So what this now means is that this save email attachments action is going to happen for each email that gets iterated through in this for each email action here. So this should be performed for every email that's in there. little bit of configuration that we're going to need to do here. So first of all, we can see that the email that it's going to be using is the current mail. That's exactly what we want, because as we can see here, that is the name of the email that is currently being iterated through in your for each email. So that's fine. We actually don't need to filter anything in terms of what we're attaching here. There is only invoices essentially in there. If you did though want to filter, maybe you know that there's PDFs and there's Excel files or something like that, you can actually stipulate some filtering here so that you're only actually picking up and saving the attachments that you want. We've then got save to folder. This is an important bit that we're going to need to configure, because it's simply asking us, where do we want to save these attachments? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the browse for folder bit here, and you'll see that we get a pop-up from UiPath, which is going to allow us to select the folder. What you should see as you begin to go down here is that it is going to take you to the folder where this automation exists. So for me, I've named this Summer Camp Exercises, and you can see it just there. And if I expand this out, you'll see I've actually already got a folder in there called Payable. Now this is just as I was testing it out, I've already created it. For you, you will need to create a new folder using this make new folder and create this payable folder here. Now, the easiest place to put it is, as I have done inside the automation bit just here. So this is the automation folder. This is where I'm working, if you like, in StudioX at the moment. And I've just created a little folder called payable in there. Once you've done that, once you've made the new folder, you can simply click OK. And you should see now the save to folder looks a little bit like this. So project folder, i.e. where we are currently, where we're developing in StudioX, and then payable is essentially the sub folder there as well. Now I'm going to override existing. The reason I'm going to do that is that I know out of the 23, 24 invoices that I've got in there, there are some duplicates because they're all just dummies. So there will be some duplicates in there. So I will let it override any sort of duplicates that might be in there. So we might end up with a little bit less, a few less invoices, but there won't be any duplicates. For you though, for when you're doing yours, you probably only sent a couple of emails to yourself. Maybe unlikely that they're going to contain the same PDF as an attachment. So you might not need to have that override existing. So very simply then, this is going to do the first bit of this demo. So it's going to connect to Outlook. It's going to start iterating through the emails in this business invoices folder. And for every one of those emails, it's going to go ahead and save the attachments into this payable folder. So that is the first part of what we need to achieve with this demo. The second part is dealing with the overdue emails. So what we're going to need to do here is identify that of the emails that we're now iterating through, some of them are going to contain the word overdue in the subject line. And for those, we're going to need to move that email to a separate folder and also send a reply to the original sender. So the way that we're going to achieve that is, first of all, by using an if statement. So I'm going about it a slightly different way, adding my activity here now, just by adding, pressing this little cross button here, this plus button, and then I can go ahead and search for specific activities if I already know the name. So I know that we're going to be using an if statement here. So I'm just typing if at the top and then double click on if there. And you can see that we've now got a nice if statement here. Now, as you will have seen previously, an if statement is a very simple way to make a decision. So, and that is going to be based on a condition. And the condition that we need here is analyzing whether the subject contains the word overdue. So in order to build that condition, I'm going to press the little plus symbol just over here, and I'm going to go to the condition builder from the menu here. So if I click on that, you'll see that we get another little pop-up, which is going to allow us to create a condition. And again, very simply, StudioX is going to do all the heavy lifting here in terms of knowing what we need to do. So we have First of all, the current mail. So this is the mail that we are currently iterating through, and we want to double check the subject. So I'm going to take the subject of the current mail, and I want to see if it contains the word overdue. So current mail subject contains, and then the value here is going to be text. And I'm just going to input the word overdue there. So that's our condition, checking to see if the subject contains the word overdue. And if it does, we want to do the couple of extra actions to do with these overdue accounts, namely moving the email and replying to it. So I'm going to have a couple of activities. First of all is move email. So you can see I've typed in move into the activities panel here, and I'm going to take my move email and I'm going to pop it across into the then branch of this if statement. Always worth remembering that an if statement does have two branches. You have a then and an else. The then route is if this condition is true. The else route is if this condition is false. But you can hide the else route, because usually when you're doing it, you're looking for something positive like this, looking for the word overdue. And if you find that word, you're going to perform an extra little sequence of actions. So we're not going to need the else route as we're doing this one. We're just going to focus on the then. So for our move email activity, again, a little bit of configuration here. So we're taking the current mail, that's fine. And we're going to move it to a folder, and we just need to stipulate what folder this is going to be. And again, you have the ability with the connection through to Outlook to start looking through the folders that you may have. And again, I'm going to go training/exercises here. And I've already made a separate folder called priority. And that is where these overdue emails are going to go, as per the summary that we saw in the PowerPoint presentation. So now we can see here that this current mail, as long as it has conformed to this condition in the if statement, then the current mail is going to be moved to this priority folder, which is exactly what we need to do. And the very final step is going to be sending a reply to the original sender. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my activities panel, and I'm going to send, because we're going to send an email. You can see you have your send email here. Drag it across, pop it below the move email activity, and then we just need to go ahead and configure this up. So the account that's going to be used to do the sending is the Outlook account that we're already connected to, so that's fine. And the person it's going to is going to be the person who sent the original email. So again, we're going to use UiPath here, just we have a current mail and we have from. So this is going to mean that it's going to take and it's going to send the reply to whoever sent that original email. So again, nice and easy getting this configured up. We don't need to worry about the CC here. We are going to put a subject in there. I'm just going to put a little bit of text. And we can put anything you like in here, but something contextual to the process, like overdue account, for instance. So I'll save that. That'll be the subject when this email gets sent. And then we've also got the body of the email as well. And again, I'm going to set this to text just so that I can write a very simple message in here. And I'm going to use the text builder. And I'm going to put a little message saying, apologies for the delay. This account will be settled shortly. So just a quick apology to whoever is the owner of that overdue account. And then crucially, what we're also going to do is we're going to uncheck this save as draft box here. Now, what that means is that it's actually going to send the email. It's otherwise it would just compose the email and have it sitting in your drafts folder if you wanted to, for instance, review the email before it actually got sent out. Now, all of that being said, though, that should be everything that we need to do with this demo. So just thinking back to the summary, what we were trying to do is get all of the emails from the business invoices folder. So in order to do that, we've connected to Outlook, and we've used a for each email, which is specifically targeting this business invoices folder. We then needed to download the attachments from unread emails into a local folder named payable. This is where we have our save email attachments, which is saving the attachments from the current mail into this payable folder. And then finally, we needed to move any emails that say overdue in the subject header to a folder called priority, and also send a reply to the sender with an apology about the account not being settled yet. So that should be everything that we need. We can go ahead and give this a run, and we should hopefully see all of the outputs as they play out. So my run button is annoyingly behind all of this Zoom stuff. So there we go. What we should see with this is once the robot kicks in, you can see here that we have 23 unread emails in this business invoices folder. And as the robot begins to work through and find those overdue ones, we should see some of those going into the priority folder as they're moved through, and also some new emails coming across into my inbox because I was the original sender of all of those overdue emails. It's obviously all going to come back to me in terms of those replies. So you see the robot's just kicking in there and beginning to work through these. You can see my Outlook is beginning to kick into life. We have emails going into this priority folder here, and we can also see I'm beginning to get some emails through into my inbox. We'll let it go through and process all of those. Whilst that's doing, if you just want to tweak and finalize what you've got in your studio and give this a run, hopefully you will be getting the same kind of results as I do. Any problems or challenges, do just drop a little message in the chat there, and I'm sure Lovely will be able to help you out with any issues you might be having. So I think we're almost getting there. Worth noting as well, UiPath is a very, very fast tool, generally can do things incredibly quickly. One thing that hampers it though in terms of its speed is always the speed of the underlying applications. So we can see there took, I don't know, half a minute or something like that to do that. And what you could observe if you're seeing down the bottom here is it's sending the emails one by one. That would have taken a lot quicker if Outlook didn't need that time basically to send those emails. UiPath is able to perform the actions much faster than that. It's just reliant on Outlook as an application and how fast that can go through sending different emails. So just to look at the outputs here then, as the last few emails are filtering in, the automation has finished. So it's done everything that it needs to do. It might just take a couple of more seconds as some of the emails are sent and then received into my email inbox. But what we can see here is that the original folder, the business invoices folder, now has only new invoice received emails. So any ones that said overdue are now no longer in this folder, which is exactly what we want, because the overdue ones should have been now moved to this priority folder. So if we move over to the priority folder, we should see now all of these emails, just the ones that say invoice overdue. So that's exactly what we would expect. And so now we can double check in my inbox and make sure that we've received all the replies for this. So if we go into the inbox, we can see I've got tons of emails now about an overdue account. So this is obviously the message that we just created in StudioX, little apology in the body of the email and the subject there. So very, very easy to be able to make all of those connections and get everything into the right areas to perform that process. The last thing that we just want to double check is making sure that it downloaded the attachments. So bearing in mind the attachments have been saved into a local folder called Payable, I'm just using the project button up here to go to open the project folder. Once that's happened, you can see I've got this folder here where my Payable folder is located. And if I go in here, lo and behold, I've got loads and loads of PDFs. So this is everything that's just been downloaded essentially from the emails. You can see date modified 9:53. I'm in the UK right now. So that's obviously today, just a few minutes ago. So that's all worked really, really nicely. Hopefully you've been able to follow along with that and get that demo done, similar to what we saw in the video there, but really useful just to start getting you using the different email activities and things like that, and hopefully seeing just how easy it is making the connections between all the bits of data that you might be using as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing that and flip back over to the PowerPoint, or in fact, actually, this is where we're going to pause and have a little quiz. So Christina, rather than me going back over onto the Menti, oh, should we have the PowerPoint slide up because it's got the code in it, doesn't it? So I will.
I will share the code anyway. So
you got the code as well. Fantastic.
So guys, I think you already know, go to www.menti.com if you want to join the quiz room. And I will paste the code here, so you can just copy paste it from the chat box. You have it here, 19331609. It's very easy to join from mobile too, if you want. We will just wait for you to get into the quiz room. And we will go through the first two questions now, and we'll have two questions before Q&A at the end of the session. So in almost 20 minutes, let's say, the next quiz. Okay, we have about 45 people in the session. I see 23 of you are already in the quiz room, still growing the number. It's quite easy. I think everyone should be able to access the quiz room, but let us know if any of you cannot. Okay, so I see we are up and we stopped at 28, so we can start the quiz now. 28. Do we have a 29? We have a 29. I feel like digging here. 30. That's a good outcome. Okay, so I think we can start the quiz now. And let's go to the first question of the quiz. So remember, guys, Menti is all about answering fast. Which of the options below is an email action you might automate? Getting email address on SpaceX Mars program workspace, reading an email, forwarding an email. Yeah, so probably you won't get an email account with the SpaceX Mars program. We cannot do that for you, unfortunately, but Elon might. However, yes, forwarding an email and reading an email are correct answers, both. So let's see the leaderboard after the first question now. But you can tell us how many of you would like an account with the SpaceX Mars program. Okay, we will have one winner today. So I see Guido is our leader for now. But remember, this is dynamic, so for sure it will change depending on how fast and how correct you are throughout the rest of the questions. Let's go to question 2 now. And remember, answer fast to get more points. Which resource might you use to start your email automation? Use desktop Outlook app, use Yahoo email, Santa's PO box in Lapland. everyone was correct. That's wonderful to see. Yes, it's use desktop Outlook app, of course. And let's see the leaderboard after the second question. Okay, so it seems like we have a very close fight here for the main two positions. And Mithun is leading now. Okay, we will come back with the next two questions after the rest of the session before Q&A.
Awesome, thank you, Christina. And yeah, looks like that race for the top spot is hotting up. So we'll see how the next couple of questions go after the next bit. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to share back onto the presentation. We basically got another demo that we're going to be running through. I was just having a little look in the chat there whilst you're doing that. I appreciate lots of questions as we were going through. Just remember, all of what we're going through today, both the recording, the PowerPoint, any auxiliary content, anything like that will be distributed to you by tomorrow, essentially. So don't worry too much if you haven't been able to keep up with some of the stuff that we've been doing. You'll be able to take that that video and pause and take as long as you need to go through and get all of that done, alongside obviously all of the other good materials that you can tap into, like the forum and things like that, as Christina said at the beginning. So I'm going to share my screen. We'll have a look at this other practice. Now, this is actually the demo that that was the package that we could download at the beginning. If you remember, just when we started the session, we had a little resources pack there. I think Christina was shared the link in the chat there. So if you have done that, or if you haven't done that yet, please go ahead and grab that link and download the automation that you can find in there. It's basically giving you a head start on what we're about to do in terms of it provides you with an automation with some of the activities already done there as well. So it should be a little bit easier for you. So I'm just very quickly going to show you this this slide here because it explains what we're going to be doing, and then we'll jump into StudioX and have a look at what we've got and how we are going to enhance it and edit it to do this process. So first of all, what we're going to be doing is creating a simple digital assistant, which is going to be sending an email invitation. So we're going to create a bot which will edit a Word template with some information, namely someone's first name, event date, and event time, and then it's going to send an email to that invitee. The email sent will use the edited template as an email body, and we're going to be using Outlook here. As I said at the beginning, I'll show you it in Outlook. We'll go fairly quickly through this because it has been sort of partially built for you if you're using the resources pack that we showed you earlier. But by all means, like I say, this recording will be available. So if you do need to come back to it and slow it down to go through it, that's absolutely fine. We're also going to see the Gmail version of this with Lovely just after I've gone through it. And that potentially is going to be a little bit of homework for you. So look out for that when it comes. So we know now what we're going to be doing. We're essentially going to be editing a Word template and sending an invite to someone. So I'm going to open up StudioX, and we can see if you download the resources pack, this is what you will get when you open it up in StudioX. So just to have a very quick look through at what we've got here already so that we can understand what we need to add to it. First of all, we have the set invite data. So what we're doing is there's a load of different save for later values here, and we are saving some of the information that we're going to be needing further on down into the process, things like the event date, etc. Now you can see that some of these are actually blank. So some of these we will need to fill out ourselves, which we'll come back to in just a second once we've just had a look through everything that we've got here. So the first bit is setting the initial pieces of information. Now we come into copy file, which is going to be taking the original template and creating a copy of it so that we can edit that copy and then use it to send the email at the end. So anytime that you're taking a template and you want to sort of edit it in this kind of circumstance, you always want to create a copy of it so that you're not tampering with the original template, because as soon as you edit that template and get rid of keywords, for instance, it means that it's not really going to be useful when you come around to do this again, because the template is no longer a template. It's actually a fully fledged file at that point. So we're going to copy the template first of all. You can see all of this information is actually embedded in here already. So that's great. We actually don't need to configure really anything on this section. And once we've got the copy of that template, we simply need to change the values that are specific to this process. So the template has some placeholders for different pieces of text. So it will have a placeholder called first name, and it's going to, or the robot is going to replace that placeholder with the invitee first name. And this information is going to be taken from the bit at the top here. So where we're setting all of the specific pieces of information that we need, we'll be setting the first name, the event date, the event time, and also the email address of the individual. So you can see we're using Word to do the replacements here. Again, this is actually already pre-built for you, so you're not going to need to really change anything here. It's just useful to understand what it's doing. So after all of that's said and done, we will have a document here which contains all of the information relevant to this person, and it'll be ready to send out via email. So that's the bit that we're missing down the bottom here that we'll need to do. So we'll very quickly go through and start to configure this all up. But before we start looking at sending the email, we just need to fill out the extra bits of information in this set invite data. So first of all, we have a complete blank or blank on both sides, save for later for the invitee first name. So we are going to have to go ahead and use a variable here. We actually haven't got the variable set up yet, so we're going to need to create a variable that we can use for this. We are, I think, using that there. So let's just have a look to make sure that we're going to be using the right one. Okay. So in this first box here, we're going to create a variable. We're going to call it invitee first name. So what this means is that it's going to save this information for later use, and this is one of the fields that we need. Now, I'm just going to have this going to myself, so I'm going to put a text value in here and put in my name. If I can spell it, there we go. And the other bit that we need to fill out is the invitee email address. So I'm going to pop, again, my email address in here so that we can see this come through. So having done that, it means that all of this set invite data is all been done correctly. There's no gaps or anything like that. There's no warning messages now for us. So that should all be fine. So I'm going to collapse this down just to make it a little bit easier for us to understand. Now, the invitee first name is what we've just sort of created in there. So I'm just going to double check and make sure that this is connecting up to this correctly. So actually, sorry. We don't want to do that. Just want to change this bit here. I think I'm going to have to do it in the advanced editor. Actually, let's just leave it. It should be okay. So it's going to be copying the template file. It's going to be using the Word file bit here to then substitute out all of the bits of information. And then now we need to add in the email bit just at the end. So we're going to go right down to the bottom of the automation here. I'm going to click on the little plus symbol, and I'm going to start putting down the resources that we need to do this. So just like before, we're going to start off with a use desktop Outlook app resource, and that's going to allow us to connect into my email account and therefore go ahead and start sending this email. So I'm going to search for Outlook at the top here. Use the desktop Outlook app. Similar to before, I'm not going to change what account it's using. The default account is absolutely fine. And then I can go ahead and put a send email in here. Again, the account is fine. Who we're sending it to, now this is actually a piece of stored information. So we're going to use variable and we're going to go to invitee email address. And if you remember, we just set that up at the top of the automation just a second ago with my email address. So we'll choose that. And we're going to put a little subject in here. Keep it nice and simple. You are invited to an event. And then this is where it's slightly different to what we had previously. So instead of using HTML or text as the body of the email here, we're actually going to use a Word document. So what we can do is we need to give it the file path of the Word document that we're going to use. And we know what that is because we have it up here as well. So I'm going to open this up and copy this. In fact, I think you can just copy it directly from there. Ooh. Get a text. There we go. So I'm going to copy that. And put it in the text there. Again, we're going to take off save as draft there. So this now should be working through. So it's going to send an email. It's going to send it to the email address that we put in at the top. So that's going to be my email address. It's going to then send me in the body of the email. It's going to have changed and use this Word document here. Now, the only thing that I just slightly unsure whether we need to change is this invitee first name. Let's give it a run and see if it all comes through. It might be that we just need to change this invitee first name part. The reason being that I created a separate variable basically for it. So we might just need to reestablish that connection, but it might pick it up automatically. One of the great things about StudioX is that it does a lot of the legwork for you. So let's go ahead and give it a run and see what we get out. Takes a little while just for the robot to kick in. There we go. So it's gone into the Word document. We're making some edits. I've got a few things open on my screen, so my laptop's a little bit slow, but it's just done the Word bit. So now it's going into Outlook and sending the email. There we go. So that's all finished up. We should see in just a second the email come through. So just wait for that. Whilst that's coming through, though, it's worth noting you can certainly enhance this this automation. If you, for instance, were using it in real life, you probably wouldn't want to set the data like this actually in Studio, what you absolutely could do is have things like message boxes popping up asking for the first name and the email address of the person, and then everything else will happen straightforward and straight through like that from there. So if you have got all of this working and fancy just taking it off to the next level, try exploring some input dialog boxes at the top here, which are able to get the first name and the email address for you as well. So hopefully that has come through. So fantastic. What we can see here is the email that I've just received, 10:15 there, so just now, and it's got this lovely little graphic in it, and this is the Word template that it has just edited and sent through now as the event invitation. You can see that all the data must have come through correctly because it's been sent to my email address, first of all, which is exactly what we needed. It's got my name in there. It's also got the date and the time of the specific event. So that's all worked really, really nicely. You can see how something like this would absolutely be useful if you were, for instance, an HR professional who had to send out lots of invites to specific training or learning events that you might have within the company. Again, you can potentially enhance this automation even more, so that instead of just sending one email, maybe it iterates through an Excel file of names or something like that, sending emails to every single person on there. So if you want to take it that little bit further, do explore those different options for taking and making it a little bit more enterprise grade in terms of what it can do. That is the second demo then. Hopefully you've been able to keep up. As I say, do feel free to wait for the recording tomorrow and kind of step through it in a little bit more detail. What we're going to do now is kind of have a look at that same demo, but from the Gmail point of view. And what we will likely be asking you to do is actually tackling that as a little bit of homework. So for now, though, I'm going to pass over to Lovely, who has been doing a fantastic job manning the chat. And I'm going to get on the chat ready for your questions as she runs through the Gmail side of things.
Thank you, Dillan, for the amazing demo. I am sharing my screen. Let me know if everybody can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So we will be using the same exercise pack for this homework exercise. And now I'll just quickly go and show the setup, how to do the setup in the Gmail. So in the same exercise pack, you will see the same templates, which Dillan has already showcased about how to set the invite data, the copy file, and the use Word file. So let's directly go and start with the Gmail setup. So we will use the resource, use Gmail, drag it after this particular activity. So I will place it after the word because it is going to perform the word automation, and then we will use the Gmail one. So this is the resource activity where you have to choose an account. So for the first time user, you will have to set up using the add new account. So since I have already have an account established in the web browser, so it is showing this multiple accounts. However, to register, you can click on add new account. Authentication type has to be default. So this is an homework. So I am just telling the steps so that you can refer the recording as well in order to perform these actions. Now the authentication type has to be default, and then you will see a message. You will be prompted to log into your Google account when you click OK. So you have to click OK. And then the UiPath G Suite will try to identify the account, or you can choose another account using the use another account option, where you will be asked to provide in the email address and so as the password. So this way you will be able to authenticate your account, and you will be able to see that particular account inside this particular use Gmail activity itself. So I already have it configured. So I'll quickly go to this particular account. Now we have to send an invite. So we will use and send email activity directly. We know that we have to, I'll add the recipient address. Now, in the previous use case, which you saw, that we are directly dealing with the Word document. If we directly put the Word document, the Gmail doesn't work. So we have to do some tweak in order to perform this particular operation. So what I will do is, I'll just show you first what error we get. Okay. So I'll just pick the particular document. Try to give the same path which it has been used, just to show that what could be the possible error if we try to pass the body content in the Word document itself. Okay. So now the Word document, save, and I'll just hit run. Okay, I've got a validation error. Just 1 second. Sorry, I didn't choose the account. That's why it gave me an error. I'll hit run. So it did work with the Word automation where it is trying to replace the content. But let's see if we are able to send the mail or not. So we see that document body is not supported with Gmail. So the Word document content, we cannot add with this Gmail. It will work for the Outlook. So I'll quickly show what tweak we should do in order to perform this operation. So if you go to the particular folder where we have created the different folders, emails and templates, you will see that this is the first document, invitation, where the content is available. Since we cannot read it, we will have to convert this content into an HTML. Knowing that StudioX doesn't need any kind of programming knowledge. So there is an option how to do or convert this particular document with the HTML content. Okay. So first I will open it again. Go to File, Save As. Okay. And then I will just give a name, maybe HTML, and save as type as web page filtered. Okay. And then click on save. You may get a window like this that it doesn't, whether we want to actually save the document with another format or not. Choose yes. Okay. So I chose it yes. I close this and we will see that there is a web page available in this particular folder. And if you try to open, it's the same document content itself. Now, what we will do is, I will go to the same folder again. Okay. Right click over here. Open it with Notepad. So what we're trying to do is, we have to pass the HTML content in the body. So we will just copy it. Okay. And so we saw that there is an image in the body content also. So we will just see that whether the path of that particular image is correct or not. Okay. So I can just put it as PNG and filter. Okay. Yeah. Here, if you see here, it says invitation HTML file, this one. But what we have to do is, this particular image is available in our folder called converted files. Okay. So I'll just copy the path here, copy as path, and go back to the same Notepad. So what we will do is, instead of putting this as an invitation HTML files, I'll put the direct full path so that our HTML body will also contain the proper image in the body of an email. So I'll just ensure that there is no multiple double quotes. So if you see here, I have just replaced the path with the existing path which is available in our converted files folder. Okay. Now, what I will do is, I'll go back to the same folder here. Now we know that we are trying to pass the HTML content. I will just create a new file new Microsoft Word document. Okay, give it as a name as invitation HTML. Okay, and I will paste the same content of what we found it in the web content here. So I'll just copy and paste it here. Okay, and then I will close it. So if you see that this particular Word document doesn't have the image, it is all the HTML body which it contains. Okay, so I will close it and save it. I'll close all the supporting files also. Okay, so now if you see that since we converted into a web page, I could see that there is another folder, invitation HTML files, automatically created with that particular image. So this conversion you have to do in order to pass the HTML content in the Gmail. Now I'll quickly go here. And what we have to do is just put it as HTML. And in the HTML body, since we know that it is coming from a document, I will just put it as null. Okay. And there is one more change which we have to do is, since we are reading it now, not from the invitation, but from the HTML content. So I will just go over here and choose the particular HTML file which have our web content, not the text. Okay. And then I will also read that particular file because it's a web content, right? We have to store it somewhere. So we will use read text activity. I will create a variable as email body. And then in here, if you go to the send mail properties, I will just choose the particular variable email body. So after this conversion, you will be able to attach the particular body in this format and you can send the mail. So after sending the mail, you will be able to see the mail like this. So I can quickly run it and it will have this particular image as well as the web content with changing the text as it was required in the use case. So this was the part of homework which you have to do it. You can refer the recording as well on each steps and that can help with your particular homework exercise. Okay, so I think this is done. So the next is again the quiz. So Christina.
Yes, just a minute.
Yeah.
So we can pick up where exactly where we left from. Okay. So this is where we left it. After the second question, Mithun was leading the leaderboard. So we will move on to the third question now, but first of all, make sure you are all in the quiz room. If any of you left the quiz room, I'm sharing the code again, so you can get back in. So please confirm whether you are still in the quiz room or not, so we know how much time we give you. Remember, it's www.menti.com. Okay. So I see most of you are still in the quiz room. Is anyone still trying to get in, jumped off? It's quite easy to enter the quiz room. You just copy paste the code that I gave you into www.menti.com and you will be in the quiz room. Okay, I think we can probably start now with the quiz. And go to the next question, which is our third question. So question 3 out of 4. Remember, guys, answer fast to get more points. Can bot filter attachments by file name? Yes, no, not applicable. Bot is the robot, of course, your automation. Okay, so yes, that is the correct answer. Of course, it can filter by file name. So most of you got it right. And for the rest of you, you know what the correct answer is now. let's go to the last question and see who will be our winner in the end. We are seeing the intermediate leaderboard now. And apparently, yes, Mithun is still the lead. Also still very closely followed by Guido. So there is a race there. Okay, let's go to the last question, guys. So pay attention, answer fast if you know the correct answer, of course. Question 4 out of 4. Which of the options below are possible by bot in email automation? Archive email, delete email, move email, all of this. So what can the robot do in email automation? From what you have seen in the session today. Okay, yes, this was a tricky question because, of course, the correct answer was this one. All of these, all of the ones mentioned are possible. Archive email, delete email, move email, all of those are possible. So let's see now who the winner of our Menti quiz today is. And there you go, sudden change. Okay, so Shami is apparently our winner today. I think that question, the last question, was a bit misleading, probably for our two runners up, Mithun and Guido. Shami, congratulations! Please send me your email address in direct message to me, so so you keep your privacy. And I hope you learned something from the quiz today and you enjoyed it. Yeah, I will now stop sharing. Okay, and I think we can move into Q&A now. Lovely. Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, now you can unmute yourselves. You are able to do that and ask your questions to Lovely and Dillan. And after this short Q&A, because we are already on top of the hour, I will give you the link for the session today where you will find the recording and also a link for Academy follow-up. So please feel free to unmute yourselves and start asking your questions because we don't have so much time.
Well, lovely. I think you must have done an incredibly good job of answering all the questions in the chat there.
Okay, so no one wants to ask any questions? Okay, guys, so the until you get the courage to speak up, the resource in Academy is, of course, you already had it on Event Link, but this is the course in Academy from Citizen Developer Foundation on which you can follow up after today. It's email automation with StudioX, of course. So keep this link once you start in Citizen Developer Foundation, which will be your follow-up for the RPA Summer School. So everything you learn here will help you in going easier and completing the Citizen Developer Foundation in Academy. This is the dedicated course for today, however. And then, of course, we have the link for today's session, which is session 4, Automate Outlook and Gmail with employees. You will have it in chat now. Just a minute. And you will have the resources here tomorrow, and you will also receive the recording by email. So no worries. You will have everything you need to continue and do the homework exercise. And do not forget, when you start working on that exercise, if you get stuck or you have questions or you want to work with your colleagues, go to the forum dedicated thread. And the link is there in chat as well. So keep these last 3 links as they are the most important for you now. And of course, after we end today's session, as I said, next week you will be receiving an invitation to take a quiz from the RPA Summer School. And following that quiz, you will be able to receive a diploma if you pass the quiz. It's not a hard quiz, it will be an easy quiz, but still it will check your knowledge from the RPA Summer School. Yes, next week you will receive an invitation by email. Yeah, you can also give us feedback, but I would appreciate if you had any questions you want to ask now. So as this is your last chance to ask the trainers questions from the module. Any of you having anything specific to ask, any problems, anything that was misunderstood from the session maybe, or unclear? The quiz will be probably, yes, it will not be valid like never ending. I'm not able to answer this right now, but I think it will probably, the link will probably be valid for about 2 weeks. You will receive that information in the email, like until when you can take the quiz. However, I think you only have like 1 or 2 chances of taking it. So you won't be able to take it several times until you get a correct answer. You must be careful when taking it the first time. Okay, great feedback. I'm glad you all joined us for the StudioX module of the RPA Summer School. I think it was a success because of our incredible trainers. Our MVPs did an incredible job with this program. A lot of work went into it, a lot of attention, and I hope you really follow up on these sessions. Thank you all for joining. And see you in the Citizen Developer chapter. Let me show you that chapter so you know where your home should be from now on with UiPath, and where you will continue to receive nurturing on StudioX. So as you go to our, of course, I think you're already familiar with our UiPath website, community.uipath.com, which is our home for community. This is where we live and breathe every day and work hard for you. You will see at the bottom of the page our chapters in community. These are the clusters that we work into. So in global and virtual chapters, Citizen Developers is the chapter dedicated to StudioX practitioners. So make sure to join this chapter. You will receive now the link in chat. And here you will have upcoming sessions on StudioX, and we will keep nurturing you with use cases. So you will be able to finish the Citizen Developer Foundation Academy and also see like how StudioX can be used from now on, and how you can get better with practice in StudioX. Thank you all very much for joining. Make sure you have the links from chat. Please tell me if you copied them before I close the session.